Welcome back, guys. Thank you again for joining us. And we continue with our topic on curve sketching and transformations. And I will hasten to state the fact that this approach is purely theoretical. I kind of came up with this. I have been using this successfully for quite a while. I'm yet to see where this method will falter, but you may never know. It might have some cracks here and there. But so far, it's been working flawlessly. So I am fully confident that you'll benefit from learning the methods I'm just about to show you right now. And I think let's just get started. So to learn curve sketching, one of the things that we have already dealt with was the basic graphs, and we are going to have those basic graphs shown in the form y equals to f of x. So this is the graph that we're going to be transforming, okay? And I'm going to be using the number 2 to simplify the transformation, so at least you have a pretty good idea what would happen even if the number was not the number 2. So beginning off, we're going to start off with understanding exactly what is going to happen to the f of x, and there is going to be two approaches that we need to learn the most. The first one being that there is transformations, okay, that occur, one, inside the bracket, okay, and then two, there's transformations that occur outside the bracket. Okay, so what do we know about transformations that occur inside the bracket? They affect the x coordinates. And how do they do this? Inversely. That means in an opposite manner. Okay, we're going to be seeing that shortly, what we mean by in an opposite manner. And they may affect the y coordinates indirectly, but the real I think the real change is going to be on the x coordinates, the direct ones. And in some cases, as you do your applications, you'll notice that they may affect the y coordinates just here and there. I'm going to be specifying those kind of cases. And then if they are outside of the bracket, they affect y coordinates. And how do they do this? Directly, okay? So this is for your transformations. They either your transformations inside the bracket or it's outside the bracket. And then again, we are going to talk about whether we have addition, subtraction, in which case these are going to give us a different type of a transformation as compared to, for example, having multiplication or division. Okay, so with addition and subtraction, these will always yield translation types of transformations. Okay, so this one is going to be translation of the graph, and it can either be parallel to x if our transformation is inside the bracket, or parallel to y-axis if it is if transformation is outside of the bracket. Okay, multiplication and division, these result in stretching, or someone may even think of my apologies, stretching of the graph. but this may also come back, and it depends on the other nature where you actually shrink it or diminish the graph. Again, we're going to be looking at those cases. So that's what multiplication and division are going to be on. Right, now let's look at the specific cases that you're going to have to apply of those here summarized formats. Okay, just going to draw this here. Going to go back to a black pen. Right. Now, if you have, for example, f of x plus a, okay, I promised to use a 2, so I'm going to use the 2 right there. So this, it means that because it's inside the bracket, okay, it's going to affect the x coordinates. So what we do is that this is a translation, because it's an addition. Translation of graph, how 2 units to the, notice, to the left. Okay, because we did say if it happens inside the bracket, then it's going to be parallel to the x-axis, either going to the left or to the right. Okay, and in this case it's 2 units and it's to the left. This is where the inverse part that we discussed right here comes in. The inverse part states that the opposite will happen. You're adding 2, but what's happening is your graph is moving to the left. So in actual fact, what we're doing is that we are subtracting 2 from our x coordinates. Okay, and similarly, this one is going to be a translation of 2 units, because it's a subtraction and it's inside the bracket, which means we're going to have an opposite effect. 2 units to the right. And what does that mean? That we add 2 to the x coordinates. Okay. Proceeding, we have f of 2x, again because it's inside the bracket, the effect is going to be opposite. This one, because it's not multiplication, is going to be a stretch of the graph. But what kind of stretch? Okay, because it's opposite, my apologies. Divide x coordinates by 2. Similarly, it's again going to be a stretch. Where we now multiply x coordinates by 2. Okay, and with that clears all the cases of what could possibly happen inside the bracket. Now we're moving on to what's going to happen outside of the bracket, so transformations outside of the bracket. Now this ones I would want you to take note that here we had to have the inverse. The effect was inverse to what we were doing. If you were adding a 2, we ended up subtracting a 2 from the x coordinates. If you were subtracting a 2, we were adding a 2. If you were multiplying by 2, we were dividing the x coordinates by 2. If we're dividing the x coordinates by 2, we were multiplying the x coordinates by 2 in the actual graph. But then with this one here, this one is going to happen directly because it's happening outside of the bracket. So the cases we're going to look at is 2. Because it's a plus, it's going to be a translation of graph. And because it's direct, it means that what happens with the plus 2 is that we're going to add a 2 to the coordinates. But this one affects the y, if you remember. So it's a translation of the graph, 2 units upwards. So in effect, what we're doing is we're adding 2 to y coordinates. Okay, same thing with this one. Translation of graph, 2 units downwards. So in actual fact, we are subtracting 2 from the y coordinates. Okay. Similarly, when we multiply outside of the bracket, this is just going to be a stretch. Okay. What are we doing? Multiplying y coordinate by 2. Similarly, again, it's going to be a stretch. What are we doing here? Dividing y coordinate by 2. This is all the transformations that we're going to be looking at, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of the video.